It was Benjamin Postlethwaite's job all his long life to make sure the light shone brightly high up in the lighthouse on Puffin Island where he lived. Not once in all his years as the lighthouse keeper had he ever let his light go out. All the sailors and seafarers that sailed or steamed past the lighthouse in the fog would hear his foghorn sounding, see his light guiding them through, and be grateful for it. Without Benjamin Postlethwaite, many a ship would have come too close to the shore around Scilly and been driven onto the rocks, and many a sailor would have been drowned. But sometimes, even the brightest light on a lighthouse cannot save a ship. One stormy night, a four-masted schooner, Pelican she was called, sailing from New York and bound for Liverpool with 30 passengers and crew on board, was driven by angry seas onto the rocks just off the Scilly Isles in the western approaches. The sails were soon in tatters, 3 of her masts broken. She was helpless in the towering waves and was sinking fast. From high in his lighthouse, Benjamin Postlethwaite saw it all. He heard her timbers grinding and groaning as she settled on the rocks, heard the cries of the people on board. He knew at once what he had to do. That night, Benjamin Postlethwaite saved 30 lives, men, women, and children. My own mother was one of them, and I was one of those children. Alan Williams. 5 years old I was. Somehow, and I don't remember how, just before the ship sank, we were all able to clamber down or jump over onto one of the rocks, where we found ourselves stranded, still at some distance from the shore, with barely room to stand, and at the mercy of huge waves crashing around us, every one of them threatening to wash us away. All Mother and I could do was cling to one another and hope. Then, when all hope seemed lost, we saw through the darkness a boat coming for us. One man in a tiny rowing boat that was riding mountainous seas. Benjamin Postlethwaite rowed out to our rescue that night, back and forth 5 times from the shore, through the surging surf in his little boat, and brought us all safe to the island. In the warmth of his lighthouse, wrapped in blankets, he gave us hot, sweet tea and dry biscuits, and we sat out the raging storm around his fire, rubbed one another down and warmed ourselves through, each of us astonished at his bravery and his calm. Every one of us must have thanked him a dozen times from the bottom of our hearts. He hardly said a word to anyone in reply, scarcely even looked at us. We owed our lives to this silent, unsmiling man. I sat watching him as he made pot after pot of tea, as he attended to our every need, did all he could to make us comfortable and warm. Once only I caught his eye and smiled. That was the only time I saw him smile. All around the walls of the lighthouse, I noticed, there were dozens of paintings, all of them of boats. Little boats, big boats, steamboats, sailing boats, out at sea, in storm or calm, leaving harbour, coming into harbour. Most were quite small, and most painted on bits of wood or cardboard. There were drawings scattered everywhere, on tables, on the floor, on shelves. All these paintings and drawings were simply signed Ben at the top right-hand corner in big letters. One of the pictures I especially loved. It was a small picture painted on a fragment of wood of a 4-masted schooner, just like ours, sailing through the waves past a lighthouse. He must have seen me looking at it, I think, because just before we were all taken off his island by the lifeboat the next day, he came up to me on the quayside and gave it to me. Before I had got over the surprise, before I had time to thank him, he'd walked away and was climbing the rocky steps up to his lighthouse. That was the last I saw of Benjamin Postlethwaite, or of Puffin Island, for a very long time. But I never forgot him, nor how he'd saved my life and Mother's life, and the lives of all the others too. Wherever I went in my life after that, I took his picture with me if I could. The memories of that day and what he did for us were to stay with me all my life.